of the Chamber. And this is a really special morning for us. It's our annual breakfast with Fred Upton. And I'm so sorry that we're going to be saying a fond farewell to Fred after 36 years serving West Michigan. Fred has been such a great friend of Holland and the West Michigan business community. He has been so in touch with our district and been so in touch with our economic development needs. We certainly know he's been a consensus builder here and across the country, and we're so appreciative of that. So Fred, thank you for all your service, for the many visits you've made to Holland, and for your service to our business members. We also have with us today Kevin Courtois from the U.S. Chamber, and Kevin is also going to share a special salute to Fred. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you, James. It's great to be back in Holland, Michigan, and great to be back with Congressman Upton. Excuse me, Fred. I know the only time I've seen Fred upset was when I called him Congressman on this stage several years ago. The U.S. Chamber, we are the world's largest business organization. We represent the interests of over 3 million businesses and organizations across the country. We work very closely with our state and local chamber partners, and it's been a great honor to be working with the Michigan West Coast Chamber under Jane's leadership. Jane is a member of our CCC 100, our Committee of 100 of the 100 elite executives in the chamber industry. And the Michigan West Coast Chamber, your chamber, is a 5-star accredited chamber, which is the top 1% of chambers. And very well deserved. Thank you for your leadership across the chamber industry, Jane. So Fred's 36 years of really extraordinary leadership on behalf of the business community, on behalf of this community, but really being a champion of the business community. And every time I visit, I see how vibrant the economy is here and how vibrant the business community is here. And I know that Fred is a great reflection of that in Washington, D.C. I want to just highlight a few quick numbers, because usually we're doing an award ceremony here, right? Our former Spirit of Enterprise Award. And while we don't have awards yet this year, I'm sure Fred would be a recipient, because over his 36 years in Congress, he has a 94% voting record with the U.S. Chamber. 94%. I don't know that you're going to find a higher number over 36 years in Congress. And beyond the substance of what Fred was voting on in Congress to help grow the economy, it's really how he got things done. I think the number to be very proud of too, when we started scoring the bipartisanship score a few years ago, Fred was the inaugural winner of our Jefferson-Hamilton Bipartisanship Award. He had a 97% bipartisanship score in Congress, one of the highest in Congress, which is a reflection of his willingness to work across the aisle and to get things done. I think I was reading how Fred kind of worked for Ronald Reagan, and like to live by Ronald Reagan's motto that it doesn't matter who gets the credit as long as the work gets done. And I think as a business community, we can all relate to that and appreciate that style of leadership in Washington. If I can take my chamber hat off for a second, on a personal level, as in a family with rare disease, I want to thank you for your work on the 21st Century Cures Act. It is making a difference, major investments in helping people and families who are suffering from rare disease. I think you're an extraordinary congressman, but also an extraordinary man, and you've led with integrity and with your heart, and we appreciate it. I definitely appreciate that. And on behalf of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, thank you, Fred. Thank you for your years and years of outstanding leadership on behalf of this community, especially the business community. Thank you. Now I'm going to turn the microphone over to Jim Story, County Commissioner from Allegheny County, for a special presentation. Pennsylvania.
And to make me work in Houston or in Iowa County, so. I am Jim Story, and this year I'm the chair of the Allegan County Board of Commissioners. And in April, shortly after Fred announced his decision not to seek re-election, the Board of Commissioners adopted a resolution of thanks. Very succinctly, to keep it very succinct. So I'm just going to read a couple of phrases from it. And after acknowledging all of the many services he provided to our big county, this phrase, be it resolved by the Allegan County Board of Commissioners that it extends its thanks and appreciation to Representative Fred Upton for his stellar service on behalf of this county and its residents. And be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners extends its best wishes for many years of satisfactory reflection to Fred Upton for his accomplishments as our Congressman. Thank you very much, Fred.
Well, thank you. It is a real pleasure to be here. And I just thanks for the resolution. Thanks everybody for coming. And I know we got a zillion people on Zoom, so hello there. But I want to thank Jane and Michael. I mean, they've been such stellar leaders of this organization. It's been so fun for me, not only to do our little annual event like today, but actually come up on a number of occasions when I haven't had to be the speaker, but sometimes a participant. But there's a reason why this is a 5-star chamber. I've seen the recognition in DC, and it's because of the leadership at the top, but they have connections with you all, and that's really, really good, particularly as we go through these cycles that sometimes are up and sometimes are down, and but we know this is a steady one that we can always see support. So that's really terrific. So as many of you, so as all of you know, I'm not running for re-election. This is not a political speech. It never has been when I've been here. But I was so blessed. You know, the districts changed over the last 36 years. I've had a couple different districts. Used to go up to Grand Haven. Used to have Coldwater. In the last couple of cycles, it was literally a perfect square in Southwest Michigan. And Kalamazoo to St. Joe, where I live, St. Joe Benton Harbor, and always part of Holland, whether it be the Allegan part, I have to remember that. But it's going up to Grand Haven, but it was hardly gerrymandered. It was a really well constructed, diverse district in so many ways, but it really was a microcosm of the country. Something that we can all be proud of in so many different ways. Not only large and small business, but ethnicity, color, it worked. And I was delighted to represent it for all these different years. And what I hope was a very responsible way of listening to folks and trying to learn as much as I can and truly be a representative for all of the people. In Michigan, when we've lost a population, and we had this new thing happen where we had a group of individuals write the new districts, and quite frankly, it was against the rules if they had anything to do with politics in the past. They could not be a legislator, they couldn't be even a precinct delegate. People like me, we couldn't even weigh in. You're splitting up St. Joe and Lakeshore. You're splitting up St. Joe and St. Joe. You're splitting up, couldn't even weigh in. And so for the first time, we had this panel do this, unlike what happened before. We had a legislature often divided like it is today, a Democratic governor and a Republican legislature. But in the past, when we've had it, they worked it out, and things happened. Court challenges or whatever, but at the end of the day, it happened. In 2012, Michigan lost either 1 or 2 seats. I quite frankly can't remember. But it was the state legislature, then Governor Snyder, Republican House and Senate, the Republican U.S. or the state Supreme Court, and they came up with a plan that was 7 Republicans, 7 Democrats. That's sort of like what Michigan is, right? It's always pretty close. And the Democrats didn't challenge it in court because I guess they thought it was fair and was drawn in a responsible way. And that's how we proceeded. So this new panel created this new congressional map. We again lost a congressional seat. But now they created 2 open seats. No incumbent member of Congress lived in either one of those 2 seats. And then they took my county of Berrien, which has never been split up since statehood, and they put even Upton Middle School in St. Joe with Lake Erie, 250 miles away. They split up my hometown and changed things dramatically, and it's like, come on. But I couldn't even weigh in, I couldn't even comment, and it is, the judges went along with it, and it is what it is. And my wife and I made the decision that, 36 years, we've got other things to do. I'm not going to read, I am going to take some golf lessons. But I'm not going to be challenging anyone for a little while. But we'll be doing other things. But I've been so blessed. I guess the bottom line is that I asked Michael to give me a little signal about 8:30 to do questions. I've been so blessed to really have a district that has supported policy over politics. And I've not been afraid to work with my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, as Kevin said. But really, Reagan gave me, Reagan. I got so many memories of him because I was in charge of congressional affairs at the Office of Management and Budget for a number of years, had weekly meetings with the president. And I remember the first time that when he chased me down the hallway, pushing my hair out of my forehead. He was a lot bigger than I am. He always had other guys with him with guns, and I was like, I'm not going to, he's doing what my dad always wanted to do. But it's been a fascinating journey. It really has. So many different accomplishments. I've been blessed with a wonderful staff. 2 of them are here today. Mike Ryan, who some of you know, and Dale Sugars, who runs my Kalamazoo office as well. Dale's going to take me back to Grand Rapids. We have votes this afternoon, so we know about the detours getting over there. At least I do. He'll be driving, but I'll be the back seat driver in the front seat. But it's been a great ride, and I've been just, again, so fortunate for a district that has been willing to say, get things done. We don't really care if you have an R or a D next year, baby. Just get things done. That's what we want you to do. And some good news. How much time did it have already? I got 10 minutes. So I'm going to hit about 5 quick issues. Problem solver caucus. I've talked about that here before. But this is a group who took some new members in this last week. So we have 60 members. This is a bipartisan group. 30 Republicans, 30 Democrats. I think we have 6 now for Michigan that are in, again, both sides of the aisle. And we meet literally an hour or 2 every single week. Either in person or on Zoom. Last week we had the chairman of McDonald Douglas with us for a little while after we did some business. But this is a group that we've succeeded in changing the rules of the House, and we vote as a block when we decide on issues we want to do. And immigration is one. And I got to say, President Trump challenged the Congress years ago to do something on immigration. Said, Congress, do your job. We haven't done it. Said, send me a bill that's bipartisan that we can do a number of things, which included border security. That's an important element. And we were unable to do that. We did some, what I call low-hanging fruit in the Senate, and in the House, but the Senate, Peter, take this message back, Peter Duckwright from Senator Peter Douglas. The Senate's not been able to do anything back on the immigration reform, even on some things that are, I think, easy. Dreamers. You have kids that came at age 2 or 3 and are here still at age 23. They're married or working, and they're subject to removal. Ag, man, coming through the Allegan and Van Buren County and being home this weekend again, our ag folks are in a world of hurt. Who isn't in terms of employees, let's face it. But we need a migrant workforce, and we got to make sure that it works, because this is a time that most of our farmers are starting to think about putting things into the field. If they don't have anyone to pick the crops come fall or summer, they're in a world of hurt, and we need that migrant workforce and some certainty in terms of their lives. This is an issue that our Farm Sellers Caucus has taken up. And we're working right now on this whole new border issue of Title 42, if you watch that in the news. But that could be a real release of folks that will try to get into this country again, that would actually triple the numbers coming in from the southern border without some type of fix. And we're working, that'll be one of the issues that we're again working on this week. Ukraine. You know, I've been a member of the Ukraine caucus for a while. I was on Kevin McCarthy, our minority leader, I was on what we call a CODEL, Congressional Delegation trip. We got back in 2015 to Kyiv, and then I led one in 2016 there. It was all focused on energy. We met with the leaders. Then it was not Zelensky, it was Poroshenko, was their prime minister. They were incredible trips, and Ukraine, of course, is known as the breadbasket of the world. We're going to have real food issues. Don't let anyone kid you not. Come fall in the rest of the world that will rival anything that we've seen before. And I led a bipartisan trip with Steny Hoyer, who's the majority leader, over the Easter break to the Ukraine border in Poland. We met with Chancellor Schultz. I think we were the first bipartisan group to meet with him in Germany since he's been installed. Did a number of things there. Met with the 82nd Airborne, who were just really terrific, and they were actually receiving all the military aid coming into Poland and distributing it into Ukraine. But I tell you, and I've got a relationship with a number of the parliamentarians from Ukraine that I had almost weekly contact with. And it's just, you know, we've all seen these, the footage, just breaks our heart. Just absolutely does. Spent some time with the mayor of Warsaw. This is a city of what, a little bit more than 1 million people, maybe 2. They've taken 400,000 Ukrainian refugees in to the city of Warsaw. I've never been to Warsaw before. Warsaw had 35 buildings survive World War II, completely decimated. Very much of what is happening part of Ukraine now with the Russians. But it would be like our family. It would be like us taking Ukraine. You know, my daughter's married now. She's in Boston. My son's married. He's now in Denver. It'd be like, hey, I got 2 extra bedrooms. Sign me up. That's what they've done in Warsaw. 400,000 people were given that community. And we saw a lot of the refugees coming out and actually going back in because, as you know, any male was not allowed to leave Ukraine if they were under 65 years old. They had to stay and fight they are. And this is our fight. Because if we let Russia win, they're not stopping. Already, I mean, you saw what happened over the weekend in Finland, and I was with the ambassador from Finland to the U.S. This last week. We had breakfast together with Steny Hoyer, who was, again, the co-chair of the delegation when we went over Easter. They were excited about joining NATO, and that's something that needs to happen. And I'm hoping, actually in our discussion, I'm hoping that in fact we might have a resolution on the House floor this week that embraces them sending a signal to the world that yes, we want them in to take away some of that fight. That was actually a direct discussion that we had at breakfast on Thursday this last week. So I'm hoping that can happen. I supported a $40 billion aid package, military as well as humanitarian. Some of it's going to replenish some of the weapon stocks that we passed along, particularly the Javelin missiles and others. It'll be buy U.S. and actually create jobs here. But again, as I saw over the weekend, Mitch McConnell was there in Kyiv with Zelensky. He said that aid package would pass by Wednesday. They've got a couple of glitches that they had last week. And I'm hoping that can get done to the president and we can come right in to try and help. No one would have guessed. There's one that participated in a number of classified briefings back in, I guess it was February. Everyone thought that Kyiv would fall within a couple of days. This would have been wholly different. And so there is a real chance that we can win and prevail. And again, if we don't stop them now, they ain't gonna stop. And it's critical that this aid get there. Infant formula. Now, on the personal side, my staff said, don't talk about your personal side. I have 3 grandkids now. 2 of them are 6 months and under. There is an infant formula issue that's panicked, rightly so, for a number of folks. In our district, if you didn't know, we have, actually it's the tallest building in St. Joe County, is the Abbott Lab facility in Sturgis. I've been there probably 6 or 8 times. I spent some time last week talking to the folks on the ground that are there, and I also spent some time on Friday with the head of the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. I'm hoping that within the next few hours, and I'll get an update. It was a little bit too early to call my Lex director on the way here. He was on the call with me. But I'm hoping in the next few hours we're actually going to get the word that they can open again in Sturgis. It's still going to take a little while. It'll take probably a week or 2 to get up and running because that equipment, I mean, they've operated 24/7 for years. They've never been totally shut down for months, let alone more than 2 or 3 days. So they're going to be like your shop. Oh, turn on the lights again. We got to make sure this is all clean, and we got to get up and running. So it'll take a week or 2 to get started. They paid all their employees the entire time, so it's not like they've gone someplace else. And then, of course, as they make this, they've got to test every batch. They test every batch, and they store it in case there's some type of issue. So that takes a little while as well. And then to get it to the shelf, wherever you shop, CVS or wherever it might be, it'll probably ultimately take 6 to 8 weeks to actually get there. So I think we're going to have some votes this week. I heard the speaker yesterday Speaker Pelosi yesterday on the news talk about us waiving some of the issues with imports from other countries. That'll happen. Should be a no-brainer. But we got to send the signal now because people are panicked. People are driving literally to Mexico and bringing it back. And you've got, there's a little issue of hoarding. Just is there that you all would know, oh, there's extra supply. I'm going to get it for my kids. I got the label on my phone, but I know what to look for. But there's a real rush, and obviously the kids have to have this. Infants have to have this. So I look forward to having that done. We're going to have a hearing next week in the Energy and Commerce Committee, a week from Wednesday, and hopefully things are up and running, and so we'll see. I actually may be at the site. We're actually out of session next week, so the hearing is going to be on Zoom. So that I may be standing outside of the plant, literally asking questions of the people that are there as the oversight subcommittee. Cures, Kevin talked a little bit about it. Just a reminder, when I chaired the Energy and Commerce Committee, our big legacy issue, the issue that we did a lot of things. We actually sent more than 200 bills to the president to be signed into law. Obviously, all bipartisan, since President then was around, moving through the House and the Senate. But probably one of our biggest issues was 21st century cures, which sped up the approval of drugs and devices. We coupled it with $45 billion more in health research money so we can find the answers to whatever disease is out there. We have 7,000 diseases, 500 cures. We made some remarkable success. Sickle cell. We've now identified the gene that we can bring out that actually solve that. Cystic fibrosis, we can now fix maybe 90% of the kids that have cystic fibrosis. The disease that I can remember a few years ago, most folks didn't live beyond age, didn't get out of teenage years, as you lost literally about a third of your lung power every year or two. All of a sudden now we have people who are in their 30s. It looks like it will go way beyond that as we continue research. Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is going to cost Medicare $1 trillion before the end of this decade in terms of funding, in terms of taking care of people. And it's a terrible disease, not only on the individual, but also the family themselves as they watch. I heard about one of my friends over the weekend who has early advanced Alzheimer's. She's in her 40s. She has it. It's not good. We're going to find answers to these because of what President Obama will sign our bill. It's passed 392 to 26. Yes, Justin Amash voted against it. It was one of the 20. I have a list of 26 on my desk. I know who they are. But we have, I have a good memory. We're working on Cures 2.0 right now. We had a hearing a couple weeks ago. We got a markup this week on many of the elements that we have in there. One of them is called ARPA-H. This is Advanced Research for Health. It was one of Joe Biden's real initiatives that he gave in the State of the Union speech a year ago. It's set up really like DARPA. DARPA is Defense Advanced Research, and did remarkable things. I think it was set up in the late 50s. We actually met with some of the founders of DARPA and tried to get their independence. This is going to be a new group that actually can provide maybe those breakthrough therapies or drugs that can be approved to solve some of these diseases that might otherwise stay on the shelf for a couple of decades and never really see a lot of advancement. Oh, there's only 50 people that have this or whatever it might be. And we funded it. We did the funding bill in March, keep the government open, and finish this fiscal year. $1 billion is included for ARPA-H, for ARPA-H now. And so it'll be under the auspices of HHS, and we've got to recruit people, find people to get it started, but obviously that'll continue in the next fiscal year, and we want to make sure that it's governed the best that we can. We have some good ideas, it's bipartisan, and we should approve it Wednesday in full committee on a bipartisan vote when we mark this thing up. Telemedicine, using real world evidence, all of that's important. Right, last thing is energy. So I serve now in the top, we have term limits, so I can only be the chair of the Energy Congress Committee for 6 years. I'm now the top Republican on the Energy Subcommittee. So we had a lot of different hearings, but we see these gas prices, we see what's happening with Russia, with Ukraine, with what's happened. I've always supported all of the above, from safe nuclear to clean coal to fossil fuels to wind and solar, all those different advances. It's got to be part of the mix as we look forward. And now it's more critical than ever before, particularly with what Russia's doing. We made a few stops last month on my Codell. We met with the Prime Minister of Greece. He's actually going to address the Congress this Wednesday. It's going to be remarkable. I got to meet at his house for an hour. He actually studied at Stanford, went to Harvard after that. Just a remarkable guy. They know the importance of what they can do. They have to connect, I can't remember if it's kilometers or miles, 100 miles from the north end of Greece, that they can push into some of that eastern bloc of nations to help with LNG, which helps them take away the Russian input. And that should be done this fall. I think we'll probably talk about that when he talks to the Congress on Wednesday. But we have to do it. We're so blessed as a nation to have these reserves. We got to help the rest of the world. But it also creates jobs here. It also creates, supply and demand. The more supply we have, the better it is for prices. Not only for businesses creating the jobs, but obviously the people that need, whether it be gas or gasoline, whatever it might be. So, time to start questions. Last thing, I have on my website, which you can remember, upton.house.gov, real easy to remember. I do a kitchen table report almost every week. So I write most of it myself, got to put up with my language, and talk about my activities the week and what I'm doing. It's free, you don't give your name out to anybody else, and you can actually look back at all the kitchen tables. I started doing this at my kitchen tables, and my wife kicked me out to the side porch. I got to put bird feed over there because the microwave was making too much noise. But it really started with the COVID issue and how we were dealing with it. And I wanted to let people know and get updated. You can link to different articles. So If you're not, how many people here actually built a kitchen table? So it's easy to do. So anyway, keep giving you an update with that. I'm going to take questions. Thank you. If you'd like to be here, I'm not leaving. You'll be busy the rest of the year, and West Michigan's my home, so we'll figure out something else to do. But I'll be around. Don't worry. Questions? Mike, if people want to, just because I know it's hard, do we need another mic? Well, I'll just be rolling mic.
Oh. No, we're.
Right, 25
Yeah, right. Thanks for your years of service, first of all. My father appreciated conversations with you 30 years ago. You mentioned energy, you mentioned clean, safe nuclear. I've read just a little bit. You probably are more privy to the technology. What does that really look like? Is it as clean and safe as they are presented?
So, there's actually some really good news with nuclear. And we've been pounding the NRC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, for a number of years. They come and testify before our committee. There's something now called a small generator reactor. Literally, it can fit in this room for sure, and it could power all of Grand Islands. And so they're looking at doing multiple things. Now remember, with nuclear, there's no carbon emissions. Now we have to deal with the waste issue, and that's been an issue for some time, and I've been working on it. Actually, Reagan, before I was in office, signed the Nuclear Waste Act, and by now we thought that we would have a site that would be open and taking waste. So we have it down in Cook Plant, we have it at Palisades. Actually, where's Jim Story? Jim, before he was county commissioner, he actually worked at the Palisades lab for a number of years. And we have it at the Big Rock facility, which has been closed for, 20-some years. And high-level nuclear waste is stored. Baseball throw or two, baseball throw or so, from Lake Michigan. And it's going to be there until we find a permanent place for it. Every one of our nuclear facilities is in an environmentally sensitive area. They have to have water. They have to have access to water. And so it's safe while it's there, but when they designed it, no one thought it would have to be there maybe hundreds of years until we get this site, Yucca Mountain, which is where we spent nearly $20 billion to get ready. It's still like year one of an 8-year plan to get done. So, but the next advancement is these smaller reactors. We're hoping that they get approval soon. We've been hearing that for a number of years, but maybe before the end of the decade, we'll see it. One of the detriments for new nuclear was, frankly, LNG gas was so cheap. So I helped get a new $1 billion facility that's going to be online really within the next couple months down in Niles. Imagine what that does for the tax base in Niles. No longer my district. But it's going to be, it's a good thing. So it all has to be safe. It has been. Our NRC, they're NRC employees 24/7 at every one of our facilities, as they should be. But we're seeing a number of plants to retire, so Palisades is close. Actually, the infrastructure bill will be good. There's $6 billion to try and keep some of them open a little bit longer. I don't know if it'll work for Palisades or not. A lot of good questions have to be answered. I know that the governor of Michigan, but also in California, the governor of California wants one of their 2 closing plants to maybe stay open for another decade or so, and maybe we'll use some of this money, knowing again that there's no emissions. But one of the issues is, like we have in Palisades, they're nuclear rods, and it needs to be refueled. There's a supply chain issue. And a lot of it comes from Russia. So, a lot of questions we ask. Somebody had a question over here. Over. Look at the camera. You put your back to the audience. Al, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Fred. I got 2 questions. First one is, Greece is thinking of not supporting Finland. Turkey. Okay, yep, Turkey is there. And my second question is, we hear a lot of stories about the Russian army not being as sharp as what they say they are. You could tell some stories, so.
Questions were, so for NATO entry, all 30 nations, maybe it's 33, have to be unanimous for a new entry. So we saw that with, last number of years. So this is new, Finland and Sweden. And so the Turkish Erdogan, who's either the president or prime minister of Turkey, voiced some objection. They have a little issue there called the Kurds, which he doesn't appreciate. And I saw the Finn ambassador to the U.S. On TV yesterday. I think we'll get through it. I think it'll be unanimous to get them in. Now, Russia, of course, is threatening. Don't do this. It'll take a little while. Maybe as short as a couple of weeks. But we'll see how things break, which is why I think a resolution would be just as, I think the Senate actually votes on this. But we in the House don't. And so our vote would be just as sense of Congress in support of them joining to send a signal to the rest of the world. In terms of Russia, so I reported again over the weekend that maybe a third of their troops were either killed or taken out of. They weren't trained very well. A lot of these were real kids, that were 17, 18 years old. Again, they thought it would be a week. It's been about 80-some days so far. So they were shown to be a pretty hollow force, but man, are they brutal. And they brought in, they've taken a lot of their troops that were in Syria. And again, if you remember watching the videos, it's not so much on the news anymore, but Aleppo, they just made it into a pile of concrete, just rubble. And that's what Russia is trying now to do in Ukraine. A beautiful country. I mean, it just breaks your heart. And of course, the famine issue. They provide, I think, nearly 40% of the world's wheat. So whether it's, and already India over the weekend put a ban on export of wheat. But if you think you have a refugee crisis now, just wait till Northern Africa and other countries that can't make bread, move north. It'll be an issue that will just be almost unsustainable. So, and again, for those farmers, they're not putting anything in the ground right now. And of course, they can't ship anything out. Odessa is next in terms of, that harbor's been mined. That's got to be reopened, which is why this $40 billion that the Senate should take up, what we did earlier last week, is so critical to send the message to our allies. That's one of the things that we saw when, particularly when we met with Chancellor Scholz in terms of sanctions. I mean, this has strengthened NATO more than anything before, so it's an exact boomerang of what people was expecting.
Fred, we have time for one more question.
Oh, you have time for your
Fred, thanks again for joining us. Could you maybe touch on one of your proudest moments or two, and then conversely, a big regret?
Well, it had to be with cures. I mean, you just, when I got out of the health subcommittee in '94, I guess it was, I didn't realize that you see every group that has any type of disease wants to come see you. Cancer's impacted my family, diabetes, all those different things. But you see them all. And what can you do? I mean, you feel like maybe a disciple or something, you want some blessing to help people get through that pain. So cures had to be it. Then we brought in some of those impacted families and kids. Actually, they were part of the signing ceremony. So that was really, really special. And again, a big bill that took like 3 years after. And we really relied on Joe Biden to get it done. I mean, he was our help in the White House. So without him, it wouldn't have happened. Without anybody. We survived the filibuster in the Senate. And just to give you a little story, one of our ideas was to have, then he was vice president, and any vice president would be the presiding officer in the Senate. And he said, we want you in the chair. So we put him in the chair. I went the hour I'm allowed to be on the Senate floor, but I brought when the head of the NIH with me to watch, to get the ticket from Senate Florida. And I watched a couple of senators go up to him and apologize for not voting for the bill. We had to go through a filibuster. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders had a filibuster against the bill, so if we don't get 60 votes, it's dead. And Schumer supported him. And we beat him. We got 75 votes to allow the bill to move forward. Biden helped us on that. And I watched I watched both Bernie and Elizabeth Warren go up to him and apologize for not voting for the bill because they knew it meant so much to him. He cried. So that's number one. In terms of regret, you know, you learn early that you can't hold a grudge. Now, I told you that those 26 people I know I don't know that I have a real regret. I'd have to think about that a lot. There's just so many issues. You know, when I thought about my talk this morning, I said, you know, I could do like a laundry list of all these different issues. You know, working on the auto industry was, you know, saving them, rescuing them, and they paid the money back, and we would have been killed in our state if we had the government. It was John Legal and Fred Upton in the House got that big done. So there were, you know, but I'm not going to hold it, you know, I'm not going to, my staff, they can tell you that I get angry much at all. Yeah, well, that's the right answer. I don't know that I have any real regrets. I mean, it's been, you know, this district is just so good. I mean, such good people that are here, such good businesses. You know, you know, I did an interview, you know, one of the things I really enjoyed, and I had to stop because of COVID, you know, not really started yet again, is I visited a school every week. Now, those kids, I never thought would vote for me. Sure enough, I ran into one at the parade on Saturday. She goes, I remember when you came to my junior high class, and now she's got like kids. But that's one of the things I miss, and you know, I never had a legislator ever come to my class, and so every week I go to a school, whether it be certainly college, but middle school, you know, I love those. Even as a parent, I just love, you know, seeing it. We're just so lucky to have the district that we have, and it was fun. You know, I like campaigning, but I have fun at it. I have fun going door to door and being in parades and talking to people and doing civic events like this, and just watching our district grow and trying to do what I can to have people have a better quality of life. And Roger would say that. Certainly Peter would say that as he relates to his boss in terms of what you do. So I don't know that I have any regrets. I don't know that I would change much what I did. COVID locked us down in a pretty big way. And, you know, because we got the vaccine approved, we actually saved, you know, maybe 500,000 lives, Americans that wouldn't have had the vaccine, that would have died. But because we did 21st Century Cures, it allowed Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and J&J to actually produce the vaccine before it was approved, so that those stocks were ready. And I've been to the Pfizer facility, and I've watched them send, I mean, just one of the freezers that they have, not much bigger than a Whirlpool refrigerator. You're supposed to laugh. But it holds 350,000 doses in one. And they had banks of them that were there. And so those are, you know, you look at Africa, they got the supply issues, which is why they're going to have terrible things. You just can't get it distributed. You look at China, they don't have the same vaccine that we have now. You see hundreds of millions of Chinese that are locked in. I talked to PJ about it as it relates to his business over there earlier this morning. And just the advantages that we have, because we have some pretty good people working in great factories and scientists is important. So with that, I think my time has expired. And Michael, again, thanks. And I'll be back. Don't worry. I've got time to do very well on my agenda. But I really love all of you. Thanks so much, Dave.
time and your dedication and your service. We have two brief updates before we're going to wrap up. We're going to go a little bit long today, but I think that's just okay. First, we have Peter Dinkow with us to give us a brief update on what Senator Gary Peters is up to in Washington. Surprise, Peter, you're speaking this morning. And then we're going to wrap it up with Senator Roger Vickery for a brief state update.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. And I'm going to be extremely brief because we needed to hear what we heard from Fred. So, thank you, Fred.
I'll be very brief too. I think Fred was staying around because when I talk to a lot of those young people, like I said, schools, I would say, you know, the key to success is surrounding yourself with people better and brighter than yourself. And Fred, you're one of those. If it wasn't for Fred, I wouldn't be standing here today. You know, he was my congressman, but I remember traveling to Washington, D.C. as a simple turnip farmer from Hudsonville. And he would see me along with a couple of his constituents, Russell and Fred, if I know the names, last name, but and wow, we're always receptive. You heard our issues. And as a simple person from Hudsonville, seeing what you were doing in Washington, D.C. inspired me to get involved and get more involved. And suddenly I found myself in Lansing and serving in this. Thank you, because my pathway wouldn't have been the pathway I took if it wasn't for you. And I'm sure there's many other Roger Vickeries, thousands of those, because of your career. So with that, I'll say thank you. And with that there, I have district hours at 9 a.m. this morning, so I've already not gone too much details. The budget process is moving forward. The Judiciary Committee is very busy, and give us a call, keep us updated on the issues, but it's an interesting time, and the budget process is going to go fairly quickly here, but we have a lot of opportunity. Look at a possibility of a gas tax holiday coming up here for a month, a couple months here, and we're looking at some aspects of how that sales tax and gasoline is reflected on. We have an opportunity to get this up, and I know it was on statewide radio as well. You're talking about how gas tax holiday I can pay for it. Well, that's because I still have $1 billion in my general government budget I carved out still on the balance sheet to pay for that. So with that, appreciate it, and good seeing you, Fred.
Thank you very much, Senator Vickery. Once again, Fred, thank you so much for being here. That was a great kind of segue to what we're going to talk about next month is we're going to from our candidates that hope to be the next Fred Uptons, the next Roger Vickeries. So please join us for our last session of this season next month, what we're going to hear from our candidates. And we appreciate you all being here today. How about one more round of applause for Congressman